March 6, 1943. The sun beats down on the dusty headquarters of the US II Corps in the rugged hills of WWII, Tunisia. Inside, the air is thick with the stench of defeat, stale coffee, unwashed uniforms, and the unspoken shame of men who have just witnessed the unraveling of an army. Officers shuffle papers, avoiding eye contact, their faces etched with exhaustion and fear. Whispers circulate: the Germans are invincible, the Americans are green, and the war in North Africa might already be lost. Then, the door bursts open. In strides Major General George S. Patton Jr., his polished helmet gleaming, ivory-handled revolvers slung at his hips like badges of unyielding authority. His eyes scan the room like a predator sizing up prey. "Gentlemen," he barks, his voice cutting through the silence like a whip, "this is no longer a country club. This is a war zone. And if you're not ready to fight like hell, you're gone." Within hours, the first heads roll. By day's end, the Corps is on notice. This is the moment that would redefine American fighting spirit, or break it entirely. But to understand how Patton pulled off one of the most audacious leadership overhauls in military history, we must first rewind to the blood-soaked sands of Kasserine Pass, where the US Army faced its darkest hour in World War II. This is the story of Patton's ruthless purge, how he fired dozens of officers, instilled terror and discipline, and transformed a shattered corps into a lethal force in just 10 days. It's a tale of redemption forged in fire, with more twists than a desert storm, packed with suspenseful inspections, edge-of-your-seat battles, and hard-hitting facts drawn from declassified reports and eyewitness accounts. We'll dive deeper than ever before, uncovering overlooked details, strategic blunders, and the human cost of victory. Buckle up, this isn't just history, it's the blueprint for turning defeat into dominance. The catastrophe at Kasserine Pass, America's baptism by fire. February 14, 1943, Valentine's Day, but there was no love lost in the Tunisian desert. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the legendary Desert Fox, launched Operation Fruiling Wind, Spring Wind, a daring offensive aimed at smashing the inexperienced American forces and seizing key supply hubs like Tibessa. Rommel, commanding the Deutsch-Italienische Panzerarmee, German-Italian Panzer Army, coordinated with General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim's 5th Panzer Army to exploit the Allies' disorganized lines. The US II Corps, under Major General Lloyd R. Fredendall, was the weak link, a patchwork of green troops fresh from stateside training, many seeing combat for the first time. Fredendall, a 59-year-old West Point graduate with a reputation for administrative prowess but zero battlefield experience from World War I, had set up his headquarters 70 miles behind the front in a lavish underground bunker complex nicknamed Speedy Valley, or Shangri-La. Dug into a ravine by the 19th Engineer Regiment using bulldozers and explosives, it featured reinforced concrete walls, electric lights, and even a barber shop, luxuries that diverted resources from the front lines. Eisenhower himself later criticized it as an astonishing sight, noting Fredendall's obsession with personal safety over operational oversight. Fredendall rarely visited the front, issuing vague, coded orders via radio that confused his subordinates. For instance, he once commanded a unit to go to the pass until they are stopped by the enemy without specifying tactics or support. The battle erupted at dawn on February 14 near Sidi Bouzid. The 10th and 21st Panzer Divisions, battle-hardened from years in the desert, swept through Fade Pass with 140 tanks, including the fearsome Tiger I heavies armed with 88mm guns. They flanked US positions on Debel Lesouda and Debel Ksaira, isolating the 168th Infantry Regiment of the 34th Infantry Division. American M3 Lee tanks, with their outdated 37mm guns, were outmatched. One eyewitness recalled German shells punching through US armor like butter. By midday, Combat Command A, CCA, of the 1st Armored Division counterattacked but was ambushed in a classic Rommel pincer, losing 98 tanks in hours. Panic set in, soldiers from Iowa farms and New York streets discarded rifles and fled, some running 15 miles non-stop. Suspense built as the Germans pressed on. On February 15, Fredendall ordered a piecemeal counterattack, but poor coordination led to disaster. The 168th Regiment, trapped on hilltops, held out heroically but was overwhelmed. Only 300 of 2,000 men escaped under cover of night, with Lieutenant Colonel John K. Waters, Patton's future son-in-law, captured. German Stuka dive bombers screamed overhead, strafing retreating columns and turning the retreat into a rout. By February 16, 2 Corps had fallen back 50 miles, abandoning Spatler. Rommel, sensing blood, refocused on Kasserine Pass itself, a narrow defile in the western dorsal mountains, gateway to the Allied rear. February 19, Rommel hurled his panzers through the pass. U.S. defenders, including the 1st Armored Combat Command B under Brigadier General Paul Robinette, fought desperately with anti-tank guns and artillery. But Fredendel's fragmented deployments left gaps. One unit was ordered to hold a position, at all costs, without reinforcements, leading to its annihilation. German infantry infiltrated at night, using the terrain's wadis, dry riverbeds, for cover. By February 20, the pass fell, with Americans losing 183 tanks, 616 vehicles, 208 guns, and over 6,000 casualties total, 3,300 killed or wounded, 3,000 captured. Prisoners were paraded for Nazi propaganda films, broadcast worldwide to mock the soft Yanks. British allies whispered doubts, can the Americans fight? Rommel gloated in reports, calling U.S. leadership poorly led and easily defeated. The aftermath was grim. 2 Corps was in disarray, morale shattered. Fredendel blamed subordinates, but his failures were glaring. Dispersed forces without mutual support, ignored intelligence, e.g., ultra-intercepts warning of the attack, and absentee command. Eisenhower, touring the front on February 16, saw the chaos firsthand and sent Major General Ernest Harman as an eyes and ears observer. Harman's blunt report, Fredendel is no damn good. You ought to get rid of him. Bradley, as deputy, concurred, division commanders had lost all confidence. The stage was set for a dramatic shake-up. Dwight D. Eisenhower, Supreme Allied Commander in North Africa, faced a crisis. The Kasserine debacle threatened the entire Tunisia campaign, part of the broader push to expel Axis forces from Africa before invading Europe. Ike knew he needed a fixer, a leader who could instill fear, discipline, and aggression. Enter George Smith Patton Jr., 57, a cavalryman born into military royalty. His grandfather fought in the Civil War. Patton had commanded tanks in World War I, earning a Distinguished Service Cross for leading a charge despite wounds. Between wars, he authored armored doctrine manuals, emphasizing speed and offense. Known as Old Blood and Guts, his guts, our blood, troops joked, Patton was a disciplinarian who believed, a pint of sweat saves a gallon of blood. He had clashed with superiors but earned Ike's trust from pre-war maneuvers. On March 5, Eisenhower relieved Fredendel quietly, no court-martial, to avoid scandal, and promoted him to lieutenant general for a stateside training role, a face-saving move. Patton took command on March 6 with orders, restore order, discipline, and fighting spirit. Do it fast. Ike attached Omar Bradley, a steady Missourian and West Point classmate of Ike's, as Patton's deputy to handle logistics while Patton focused on the front. Patton's arrival letter to troops, you will attack and penetrate any enemy lines. I expect every man to do his duty without question. The purge began immediately. Patton wasted no time. Upon arriving, he found headquarters a mess, no salutes, sloppy uniforms, officers without helmets. His first directive, full combat gear at all times, including strapped helmets and neckties for officers. Fines, $25 for soldiers, $50 for officers, half a private's monthly pay. One staff officer, caught helmetless at his desk, was relieved on the spot, pack your bags and report to the rear. 20 years of service ended in seconds. Patton's jeep tours began. He drove the front lines, quizzing troops on tactics. If you can't answer, you're gone, he growled. Suspense mounted as rumors spread, blood and guts is here, and he's hunting heads. That night, Patton met senior commanders. American soldiers didn't fail at Kasserine, he thundered. Leadership did. And we're fixing that now. He relieved several staff officers for incompetence, including those who couldn't explain unit positions. By day's end, the Corps buzzed with tension. Would you be next? Patton visited battalion HQs unannounced, building nail-biting anticipation. At 1, the commander was absent. Back at division, Patton fired him instantly, promoting the XO with a warning, know your positions by tomorrow, or join him. At another, a company commander had his CP 500 yards behind the line for better comms. Patton exploded, "A leader belongs with his men. See what they see, you can't lead." Relieved? Over 3 days, dozens fell, officers for poor defenses, unclear intel, even minor infractions like unpolished boots. Specific firings added depth. Patton scrutinized Major General Orlando Ward of the 1st Armored Division, whose tanks had been decimated at Kasserine. Ward was competent but cautious. Patton demanded aggression. Other reliefs targeted Fredendall holdovers, headquarters staff, regimental COS who panicked under fire. Not all were cowards, some were solid admins and suited for combat. Patton didn't care. Combat requires killers, not clerks. He promoted proven fighters, like Colonel William Darby of the 1st Ranger Battalion, and placed Bradley in charge of staff. To add suspense, Patton's Jeep engines became omens. Officers tensed at every rumble, knowing inspections meant judgment. One anecdote, Patton found a dugout with troop sans helmets. He fined them all, then lectured on discipline saving lives. Morale dipped initially, terror reigned, but soldiers saw accountability. Finally, the brass pays for failure, one GI muttered. Patton didn't just purge, he rebuilt. Tactical overhauls fixed Kasserine flaws. Tanks shifted from defensive hull-down positions to aggressive maneuvers. Artillery response times dropped from hours to minutes via better forward observers. Infantry-tank coordination drilled daily. Troops practiced anti-panzer tactics, like using bazookas, newly issued, and mines. Patton emphasized speed, attack first, hard, and keep attacking. He integrated British lessons, attaching 8th Army liaisons and replacing 37mm guns with 6-pounders. Psychological reforms were key. Patton's theatrical speeches, profane, confident, rallied troops. "You're not inferior to the Krauts," he roared. "You're better, with proper leaders." Night patrols built initiative. Small wins against German scouts boosted confidence. External discipline, sharp uniforms, salutes, fostered internal pride. British skeptics called it showmanship, but German intel noted Americans more aggressive by mid-March. More info. 2 corps swelled to 88,000 men, including the 1st, 9th, 34th Infantry Divisions, 1st Armored, Rangers, and tank destroyers. Patton requested air support tweaks, ensuring close air-ground coordination missing at Kasserine. Here's the twist, Patton's methods weren't just effective, they were brutally indiscriminate. Many relieved officers were patriotic, experienced men whose only sin was caution in a chaotic debut. Some, like Ward, were later vindicated in other roles. Patton himself admitted in diaries, "I cannot see what Fredendall did to justify his existence." Yet, this culture of zero tolerance would boomerang. In 1945, Patton was sidelined for political outbursts, victim to the accountability he championed. By March 15, Patton eyed a fence. Eisenhower approved an attack on Guettar to flank Rommel and support Montgomery's Mareth push. Suspense built. Just 11 days post-command, could the revamped corps deliver? March 17, 5:30 a.m., U.S. artillery thundered for 30 minutes on Italian positions, 10th Bersaglieri Regiment. The 1st Infantry Division assaulted, Rangers outflanking via hills. By noon, Guettar fell unopposed, advances reached 6 miles. Mud from rains added tension, tanks bogged down, but aggression prevailed. March 23, twist of fate, 10th Panzer counterattacked with 50 tanks. Americans spotted them at dawn, a minefield halted 8, then tank destroyers and artillery shredded 30 more in a crossfire ambush. Infantry held, bazookas flaming panzers at close range. German losses, 32 tanks, hundreds killed. U.S. casualties, lighter, around 500. By April 7, advances exceeded 50 miles, capturing Magnassi after Fierce Hill 322 fights. Ward led personally but stalled. Patton relieved him April 5 for slowness. Guettar wasn't massive but pivotal, proving Americans could beat veterans. German Commander von Arnim noted the shift, "The enemy has learned quickly." Patton commanded 40 days, reassigned April 15 to 7th Army for Sicily. Bradley took 2 corps, maintaining standards. Units routed at Kasserine became elites, fighting in Sicily, Italy, Normandy. The Purge-shaped doctrine, rapid commander relief became US policy, unlike British reassignments. Stats, Kasserine, 6000 plus US casualties, 183 tanks lost. Guettar, Axis 200 tanks vehicles destroyed, confidence restored. Controversies lingered, dozens of careers ruined, some unfairly. Officers returned stateside to desk jobs, haunted by what ifs. Patton's style drew admirers and critics. One fired CO called it unnecessary destruction. In the end, Patton saved the army by breaking its weak links. He sacrificed the few for the many, proving that in war, mercy can be the deadliest enemy. As he said, wars may be fought with weapons, but they are won by men. And in those 10 days, he forged men into winners.